Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins Collections, where small coins tell big stories. If you're into rare finds, hidden treasures, and turning pocket change into a potential fortune, you're definitely in the right place. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1971 Lincoln penny. Yes, that small, copper-colored coin that most people just toss in a jar without a second thought. But here's the twist: some of these little coins could be worth way more than just a cent. In fact, one of them has shocked collectors with a value that'll blow your mind, so stay tuned until the very end to find out exactly how much it's worth in words. Let's roll back the years for a moment. The year was 1971. Richard Nixon was president, Disney World opened its gates in Florida, and gas was just 40 cents a gallon. But over at the US Mint, something special, though not immediately obvious, was happening. The Lincoln penny, which had already been in circulation for over 6 decades since its debut in 1909, continued to be struck, but some of these 1971 versions came out just a little different. Now, before you start digging through your coin jars, let's get into what makes a 1971 Lincoln penny so interesting. First, the basics. The front of the coin, known as the obverse, features the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln. This image has been on the penny since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The reverse side, at the time, showed the Lincoln Memorial, a beautiful and detailed design that replaced the earlier wheat ears in 1959. But in 1971, several things happened during the minting process that turned some ordinary pennies into extraordinary collector's items. Let's talk about the types. Most 1971 pennies were minted in Philadelphia and San Francisco. You can tell the difference by looking for the small S mint mark under the year, which indicates it was struck in San Francisco. No mint mark? That means it came from Philadelphia. There's also a Denver version with a D mint mark. All three are common, but here's where it gets juicy. Some of the 1971 Lincoln pennies have errors, and in the world of numismatics, errors mean value. The most famous among these is the double die obverse. This error occurs when the coin is struck twice, causing a visible doubling of letters or numbers, especially in the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1971. If you spot this doubling with the naked eye, congrats, you might be holding something very special, but that's not the only error to watch for. There are off-center strikes, coins struck on the wrong planchet, and even variations in the color and luster of the copper, all of which can raise the value significantly. So how much are we talking about here? Most regular 1971 pennies are worth, well, 1 cent. Maybe a few dollars if they're in pristine, uncirculated condition. But the ones with rare errors? That's where the story changes. Imagine finding a coin that was in your grandpa's drawer, or stuck behind your couch cushions, and learning it's worth more than your monthly rent. In a recent auction, one specific 1971 Lincoln penny, featuring a bold double die in near-perfect condition, caught the attention of serious collectors. After some fierce bidding and expert authentication, it sold for an eye-watering price. Are you ready for it? That tiny copper coin was sold for $41,500. Yes, you heard that right. $41,500. For a single penny. So the next time you're sorting change, or if you happen to stumble across an old jar of coins in the attic, take a closer look. That seemingly ordinary 1971 Lincoln penny could actually be a rare gem hiding in plain sight. Today, we're shining the spotlight on a coin you've probably handled 100 times without thinking twice. It's small, it's copper, it's light as a feather, but under the right conditions, it could be worth more than you'd ever expect. We're talking about the 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin so common that it's almost invisible in daily life. But hidden among the billions produced that year are rare variations and minting anomalies that have made a few of these humble pennies worth a huge amount of money. So don't blink. This video could help you spot a life-changing coin hiding in your own pocket. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll tell you exactly how much the most valuable one sold for. In words. Let's dig into the story. The 1981 Lincoln penny might seem like just another coin. By that year, Lincoln had already been on the 1-cent piece for over 70 years. The front still features his timeless profile, and the back still displays the majestic Lincoln Memorial. Simple, familiar, and easy to overlook, but behind this common appearance lies a fascinating story of transition, change, and opportunity. You see, 1981 was the final full year that the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln pennies using 95% copper and 5% zinc. These coins weigh 3.11 grams and have a distinctive ring when dropped. Just 1 year later, in 1982, the composition changed to mostly zinc with just a thin copper coating, making them lighter and cheaper to produce. Why? Because the price of copper was rising fast. That makes 1981 a pivotal year for the Lincoln penny. It marked the end of an era of heavier, more solid pennies that collectors now consider special. But that's only the beginning. Let's talk about the different versions of the 1981 penny. That year, the Mint struck billions of coins across 3 major locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can spot the Mint mark just under the date. No mark means Philadelphia. A D means it came from Denver. And an S? That means San Francisco. Most coins from all 3 mints are still worth just 1 cent today. Maybe a few dollars if they're uncirculated and in perfect condition. But there's a rare type of 1981 Lincoln penny that's turning heads in the coin collecting world, and it all comes down to 2 little words: proof and error. Let me explain. Proof coins are specially made for collectors. They're struck multiple times with polished dies, which makes the details sharp and the background super shiny, like a mirror. But in 1981, there were 2 different types of proof dies used. These are known as Type 1 and Type 2. The difference lies in the style of the mint mark. The S mint mark on Type 1 proofs looks blob-like and less defined, while Type 2 has a clearer, sharper S. Type 2 is rarer. And rarer means more valuable. Now combine that with error varieties, and you've got something very special. Some 1981 Lincoln pennies, whether proof or regular circulation, were struck with slight but visible mistakes. Double dies. Off-center strikes. Misaligned dies. Or even transitional errors where a 1981 penny was struck on the wrong metal planchet. These errors aren't always obvious, but when coin experts find them, collectors start lining up with serious cash. So what should you be looking for? Take out any 1981 Lincoln pennies you have. First, check the condition. If it looks unusually shiny or untouched, you might have an uncirculated piece. Next, look closely at the mint mark, especially if it's an S. And finally, inspect the lettering around "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Doubling, unusual spacing, or blurry letters could be signs of a valuable mint error. You might be thinking, okay, that's cool and all, but how much can one of these actually sell for? Let's just say, for most people, a penny is a throwaway coin. Something that gets lost in couch cushions and car cup holders. But for one lucky collector, a single 1981 Lincoln penny turned out to be a once-in-a-lifetime find. After years of searching, grading, and authentication, that one little copper coin ended up being auctioned off at an incredible price. That 1981 Lincoln penny, flawless, rare, and struck just right, sold for $37,000. Yes. $37,000. For 1 cent. It's amazing how something so small, so ordinary, can carry such extraordinary value. So next time you get a penny in your change, don't just toss it in the tip jar or leave it on the counter. Take a second. Look at the date. Examine the details. Because who knows, you might just be holding your own little piece of hidden treasure. Today, we're cracking open a mystery that could be lying unnoticed in your pocket, in your drawer, or at the bottom of that old piggy bank. We're talking about the 1968 Lincoln penny, a coin you've probably come across dozens, if not hundreds, of times. But here's what you didn't know: one of these simple copper coins is so rare, so valuable, and so legendary in the collector's world, that it left experts stunned. This is not just about old money, this is about a tiny copper circle that made its way from an ordinary pocket into an auction house, and then into the record books. Let's jump into the history first, because to really appreciate what makes this penny so special, you need to understand the era it came from. It's 1968. The world is changing fast. The Vietnam War is on every headline. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy are assassinated. The Beatles are ruling the charts, and America is preparing to send humans to the moon. And in the middle of all that, the U.S. Mint was quietly stamping out billions of 1-cent coins bearing the face of Abraham Lincoln. Now here's where things get interesting. The Lincoln penny had already been in circulation since 1909, created to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, and by 1968, it was as familiar to Americans as the flag or the national anthem. But 1968 was also a year of change at the Mint. You see, during the early 60s, coin shortages and rising metal costs had forced the government to make adjustments. The Mint temporarily stopped putting mint marks on coins in 1965 to discourage hoarding, but by 1968, mint marks were back, and that's where this story starts to heat up. In 1968, Lincoln pennies were struck in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia have no mint mark, coins from Denver have a small d, and coins from San Francisco are marked with an S. Now the average Lincoln penny from 1968 is worth, well, about what it says, 1 cent. Maybe a little more if it's in great shape. But as always in the world of coins, the devil is in the details. Let's talk about the key to rare pennies, errors, varieties, and mint condition. Some of the most valuable 1968 Lincoln pennies are proof coins, struck in San Francisco with extreme care, specially made for collectors. These coins have sharp features, mirror-like backgrounds, and are often stored in sets. But every now and then, something goes wrong in just the right way. One of the rarest finds is the 1968's double die obverse. This error happens when the coin's die strikes the blank metal twice, creating a bold, visible doubling in the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and even in the date itself. If you've got a sharp eye, or even better, a magnifying glass, you might just catch this rare detail. And here's something wild: some coins that were supposed to be proofs ended up in circulation. That means someone might have spent a rare proof coin on a soda or a pack of gum, never realizing it was a collector's dream. Then there are coins with off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or even transitional metal errors. Each of these varieties has the potential to turn an ordinary penny into a valuable find. Now you might be wondering, how rare are these? How many are out there? The answer: not many. Some of these minting errors are so rare, only a handful have ever been authenticated. And when a rare coin meets a serious collector with deep pockets, that's when things get really exciting. So here's the moment you've been waiting for. After years of sitting unnoticed, a 1968 Lincoln penny was discovered to have an extremely rare combination of features. It was a proof strike, it had a bold double die, it was nearly flawless in condition, and it had all the right eyes looking at it. Once authenticated, graded, and presented at a top-tier auction, this little copper coin, just like the ones we overlook every day, stunned everyone with its final sale price. It sold for $47,000. Yes. You heard that right. 1 cent turned into $47,000. So now the question is, do you have one? Maybe it's sitting in your kitchen drawer. Maybe it's in that roll of pennies you've been meaning to cash in. Maybe it's waiting for you to discover it. Next time you see a 1968 Lincoln penny, don't ignore it. Examine it. Look closely. You never know, you could be holding something truly incredible. Today, we're talking about the 1982 Lincoln penny. It's a coin so common, so familiar, that most people wouldn't think twice before tossing it into a tip jar or letting it fall between couch cushions. But what if I told you that hidden among the billions of these coins, there's one that collectors are willing to pay serious money for? And I mean life-changing money. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why one of these tiny coins, minted in 1982, is worth far more than anyone could have imagined. Let's start with the year itself. 1982 was a turning point in U.S. coin history. It was the year the Lincoln penny underwent one of the biggest changes since its creation in 1909. And this change is exactly what makes the 1982 penny so special for collectors. For decades, pennies were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a solid weight of 3.11 grams. But by the early 80s, the price of copper started to climb so high that the metal in the coin was actually worth more than the coin itself. That's right, the government was literally losing money every time they made a penny. So in 1982, the US Mint made a major decision. They switched the composition of the penny to 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating, dropping the weight to just 2.5 grams. Lighter, cheaper, and less expensive to produce. But here's the twist: this switch didn't happen overnight. It was a transition year, which means both types of pennies were produced that year, copper and zinc, and that's where things get interesting. In total, there were 7 different varieties of the 1982 Lincoln penny. Let me break it down quickly: 1982 large date copper, 1982 small date copper, 1982 large date zinc, 1982 small date zinc, and then each of those with a Denver Mint version, marked by a D below the date, plus one ultra-rare version that still baffles collectors. Each of these types has different weights, different appearances, and different levels of rarity. The large date versus small date distinction is especially important, and trust me, it's not just about the size of the numbers. It can make a huge difference in value. Now, what makes the 1982 penny legendary is that during this transition, mistakes were made, and in the coin world, a mistake is sometimes the best thing that can happen. Some 1982 pennies were struck with the wrong composition. Others had doubling errors, misalignments, or were struck on leftover planchets from previous years. One of the most famous examples: a 1982 D small date penny struck in copper, which technically shouldn't even exist. Only a few of these have ever been found, and they are considered holy grails of penny collecting. So if you're thinking, how can I tell if I have a rare 1982 penny? Here's what to do. Step 1. Weigh it. A copper penny will weigh about 3.11 grams, while the newer zinc ones come in at 2.5 grams. Step 2. Look at the date style. The small date version has a different shape to the date and the spacing of the numbers. It can be subtle, but with the right comparison or magnifying glass, you'll see the difference. Now imagine this: you're sorting through old change, maybe rolling pennies or going through a jar from your childhood. You pick up a 1982 penny, and it looks ordinary, but it feels slightly heavier. You check the date. Small numbers. You put it on a scale. 3.11 grams. Suddenly, your heart skips a beat, because you might be holding one of the most valuable modern pennies ever made. This exact situation happened to a collector not long ago. A man in Texas was casually going through his father's coin collection when he stumbled upon an unusual 1982 D small date penny. It looked copper. He had it weighed 3.11 grams. The rest, as they say, is history. After certification, grading, and being sent to auction, this one little copper coin, overlooked by almost everyone for decades, was given a value that sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. And now, here's the part you've been waiting for: that single 1982 Lincoln penny was sold for $39,000. Yes. $39,000. For a penny. A coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street. So what does this mean for you? It means your change jar might be more than just loose cents. It might be a hidden treasure chest. The 1982 penny is a prime example of how history, error, and rarity collide to create incredible value in the most unexpected places. So grab a scale, a magnifier, and start checking your pennies. Who knows, maybe your 1 cent is actually worth tens of thousands. Today's coin is anything but ordinary. We're diving deep into the world of the 1966 Lincoln penny, a small copper coin that most people wouldn't think twice about, but hiding among the millions produced that year is a rare version that took collectors by surprise, and sold for a price that'll leave you speechless. Stick around till the very end, because you won't believe how much one of these pennies is actually worth. Spoiler alert, it's not 1 cent. It's not $1. It's not even a few hundred. It's a number that turns heads at auctions and sends coin collectors into a frenzy. Let's roll back the clock to 1966. The Beatles were ruling the charts, color TVs were popping up in living rooms, and gas was just 32 cents a gallon. In the middle of all this, the US Mint was busy producing millions of Lincoln pennies, still featuring the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the familiar Lincoln Memorial design on the back. but 1966 was no ordinary year for coin production. In fact, the entire US coin system was still recovering from a major shakeup just a year earlier. In 1965, due to rising silver prices and coin hoarding, the mint made several big decisions that changed how coins were struck, and that change spilled over into 1966. One of the most important changes? Mint marks were removed from all coins. That's right. From 1965 to 1967, no coins carried a mint mark, meaning you can't tell where they were made, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This was done to discourage hoarding, but it also created a bit of mystery for collectors. A mystery that made the 1966 penny especially intriguing. So how do you find value in something that was produced by the hundreds of millions? The answer lies in the details. The errors, the anomalies, and the unexpected twists that show up in just a few of these coins. Let's break down what makes the 1966 Lincoln penny worth more than meets the eye. First off, let's talk composition. These pennies were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing in at 3.11 grams. So if you're checking your coins, make sure they match the correct weight. Any serious variation might mean you're holding an error coin. But here's where things get really interesting. Some of the most valuable 1966 pennies discovered had double die errors, where the coin was struck more than once by the die, creating a visible doubling effect. You'll notice it most clearly in the letters, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1966. If you spot bold, clear doubling in those areas, your penny just became very interesting to collectors. And that's not all. There are also coins from 1966 that show die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet errors, where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal or the wrong-sized blank. These types of mistakes are rare, but when they happen, they turn an ordinary penny into a hot commodity in the numismatic world. Now, you might be wondering, how likely is it that I'll actually find one? Well, here's the thing, these coins are out there. People find rare varieties in pocket change, in old jars, in inherited coin collections, and even mixed in with rolls of coins from the bank. It's not guaranteed, but it's definitely possible, and recently, that possibility turned into reality for one lucky collector. After years of studying coins and carefully searching through a personal collection, someone discovered a 1966 Lincoln penny with a rare double die obverse, a strong, bold error with all the classic signs. The coin was sent off to be graded, and it came back certified as an extremely rare variety in exceptional condition. When it finally hit the auction block, it caught the attention of collectors nationwide. The bidding was fierce, the excitement was real, and the final hammer price, hold on to your seat, that one 1966 Lincoln penny, originally worth just 1 cent, was sold for $49,000. Yes. $49,000, let that sink in. A coin that most people wouldn't even stop to pick up off the street turned out to be a 4-figure treasure. That's why we're here, to help you spot the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Because sometimes, the rarest finds are the ones hiding in plain sight. So if you've got a jar full of old pennies, start digging. Get a magnifying glass, weigh them, look at the details, especially those 1966 ones. Who knows? You might just be holding a copper gem that's worth more than your car. If you enjoyed this video and want more coin hunting stories and surprises, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below if you've ever come across a rare coin in your own change. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes, all it takes is one penny to change everything.